Here's what nobody tells you about work. You show up every day. You finish your task before the deadline. You solve problems without being asked. Your boss stops checking in because they don't need to. Your teammates start coming to you first when something goes wrong. And in your head, you're winning. You're doing everything right, except you're not. What you've actually built, without realizing it, is a cage. And this cage doesn't cost you money. It costs you years. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying competence doesn't matter. It absolutely does. The problem is when you treat competence like it's the entire plan. And in most workplaces, that's exactly what people do. Let me break down why this happens. The moment you become great at what you do, something shifts. You become useful in a very narrow way. You're the fixer, the one who doesn't need hand-holding, the one who makes your manager's week easier just by existing. And on the surface, that looks like career momentum. But underneath, here's what's really going on. You've become too costly to move. Not because your salary is high, but because replacing you is a nightmare. Think about it from your manager's perspective. If they push you up to a new role, they now have a gap. They have to find someone new, train them, hope they don't mess things up, and deal with the fallout if they do. That's not a promotion for your manager. That's a headache. And most managers, not because they're bad people, but because they're human, will avoid that headache. Keeping you exactly where you are is the path of least resistance for everyone except you. And this is where it gets frustrating. Because from your perspective, you're doing exactly what the job description says. You're exceeding expectations. You're making people's lives easier. And somehow, that's the very thing working against you. So what does the company do instead? They don't promote you. They expand your role sideways. They hand you the project nobody wants. They make you the person who onboards every new hire. They give you the client that makes everyone else want to quit. And you take it because you're reliable and you don't push back. Before you know it, you're doing the work of two people, but still holding the same title. None of that extra effort shows up as a promotion. It just shows up as more of the same, but harder. Now here's the part that really hurts. When you've mastered your role, you stop growing. And I don't mean you get lazy. I mean you figured out every shortcut. You know which emails to send, which meetings actually matter, and how to get something done in 2 hours that used to take you a full day. That feels like expertise, but it's actually just muscle memory. You're not stretching anymore. You're just repeating. And repetition makes you faster at things you can already do, but it doesn't prepare you for anything new. A year from now, you'll be even better at a job you've already outgrown and even less ready for the one above it. Because here's the thing people don't understand. The skills that make you excellent at your current level are not the skills you need at the next level. Right now, you're rewarded for execution, for getting things done, for being dependable and consistent. One level up, the game changes completely. It's about thinking strategically. It's about making decisions with incomplete information. It's about leading people and letting go of the work you used to do yourself. And no company is going to train you on that before they promote you. They expect you to already be showing those skills, but they won't give you the space to develop them because they need you doing what you're already doing. This creates a nasty loop. Your performance review says exceeds expectations. Your manager praises your consistency. But when a leadership role opens up, your name doesn't come up. Not because you're not talented, because the story the organization tells about you is about reliability, not readiness. And promotions don't run on performance scores. They run on stories. The people making those decisions aren't reading your quarterly metrics. They're sitting in a room asking each other who feels right for the role. And if your story is just that person who always delivers, that's a great story for keeping you where you are, not for moving you up. And it gets worse the longer you stay, because over time, people stop seeing you as a person with range. They start seeing you as a function. You become the operations person, the spreadsheet person, the one who handles emergencies. Not officially, not in any document, but in the way people talk about you when you're not around. And once that label locks in, it becomes your ceiling. People can't picture you doing anything else because they've only ever seen you doing this one thing. And the longer you're in the role, the more that label feels like fact instead of habit. This is exactly why so many people have to leave a company to actually advance. Not because the company was terrible, but because the company already made up its mind about who they are. Sometimes the only way to become something new is to go somewhere nobody has a pre-existing opinion about you. And I know that feels unfair, because you did everything they told you to do. You were the dependable one, the low-maintenance one, the one who never complained. And that's exactly why they forgot about you. Because being easy to manage also means being easy to ignore. Here's what most people miss about how promotion decisions actually work. Your direct manager sees your output, but the person above your manager probably doesn't. And the person above them definitely doesn't. Those are the people who decide whether you move up or not. And those decisions don't happen during your annual review. They happen in hallway conversations, in succession planning sessions, in offhand comments about who's ready for more. And in those moments, they're not pulling up dashboards. They're going off memory. They're going off narrative. And if nobody is telling your story in those rooms, you simply don't exist in the conversation. There's also something else happening that nobody talks about. When you stay quiet and just do great work, leadership reads that silence as contentment. If you're not saying you want more, they assume you're fine where you are. And if they think you're satisfied, why would they disrupt a good thing? So your humility, your patience, your willingness to wait your turn, all of that gets interpreted as a lack of ambition. Not by anyone trying to hold you back, just by a system that responds to signals, and you're not sending any. Look at the people who actually get promoted. Most of the time, they're not the best performer on the team. They're the ones who made sure the right people knew what they were working on. They built relationships beyond their immediate team. They talked about where they wanted to go, not in a pushy way, but in a way that made it clear they weren't planning to stay in the same chair forever. And that clarity changes how leadership thinks about them. Because now there's urgency. Now there's a real possibility of losing them. And suddenly, their development becomes a priority. That might sound like a game. And honestly, it kind of is. But it's the game that's being played whether you participate or not. So what actually works? Being great at your job is the starting point, not the finish line. The people who move forward are the ones who also learn to communicate their value. They make their goals visible. They build relationships with people who have influence. And most importantly, they're willing to get a little uncomfortable. They start doing work that stretches them, even if it means they're not as polished at their current responsibilities. Not because they're slacking, because they're investing in what comes next instead of perfecting what's already behind them. This is the lesson that takes most people too long to figure out. Being competent is not a career strategy. It's the entry fee. The strategy is everything you do after you've proven you can do the job. Competence earns you stability. It earns you respect. It earns you trust. But it does not earn you forward motion. And most people never make that distinction. They just keep sharpening the same skills, doing the same work a little better each quarter, and wondering why their career feels like it's standing still. The real trap isn't being bad at what you do. The real trap is being exceptional at something that was never going to take you where you want to go. You spend years getting incredible at a role that has a ceiling built into it. And by the time you see the ceiling, you've already lost time you can't recover. Not because you failed, because you succeeded at the wrong thing for too long. The comfort of being the best at what you do is seductive. The praise feels earned. The stability feels safe. But comfort and growth don't live in the same place. And most people pick comfort without ever realizing they made a choice. They believe they're building a career, but what they've actually built is a beautifully furnished room with no door. That's the trap. If this changed how you think about your career, hit subscribe. There's a lot more like this coming.